Hello, everyone. We often talk about the end of the world, a cataclysm, a final judgment. But what if that end wasn't just a sudden, unforeseen disaster, a cosmic accident? What if it was a meticulously plotted, prophesied saga, a divine drama where even the gods themselves, the mighty Phaser, were bound by an inescapable, preordained destiny? What if a prophecy, chillingly precise in its grim details, dictated every single step, every tragic fall, every heroic sacrifice, leading inevitably to the twilight of everything? Today, we're not just discussing a doomsday, we're unraveling Ragnarök, the ultimate fate of the Norse cosmos. This is not merely a tale of destruction, but a profound exploration of fate versus free will, of choice in the face of inevitability, and of rebirth where the very architects of the cosmos knew their final scene, yet still chose to play their parts with unyielding courage. This isn't just an apocalypse. It is a meticulously crafted epic tragedy written in the stars, observed by the silent Norns, and awaited by all with a dreadful anticipation that stretched across millennia. And the chilling truth is, it began long, long before the first battle cry. It began with fear, with desperate, sometimes misguided, attempts to chain the inevitable. Our story's true prologue begins not with thunderous clashes of war, but with the insidious whispers of dread and the unsettling progeny of a trickster god. Loki, the silver-tongued shapeshifter, the chaotic architect of both mischief and immense suffering, birthed children destined not just to challenge, but to utterly unravel the very fabric of existence. The Phaser, the proud, powerful gods of Asgard, saw the omens, felt the deep, unsettling tremors of ancient prophecy, and reacted with a blend of profound fear and a desperate, often misguided wisdom. Their attempts to thwart their fate, to contain these monstrous offspring, inadvertently set in motion the very cataclysmic events they so desperately tried to prevent. A paradox woven in. First there was Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, born of Loki, and the terrifying giantess Angrboda. He was a creature of primal hunger and untamed power. From a mere pup, he grew with terrifying, unnatural speed, his form expanding into that of a colossal beast. The gods, witnessing his rapid ascent from a relatively harmless creature to a formidable, ravenous entity, felt a cold dread, a palpable anxiety, grip their hearts. Prophecy, whispered by seers and ancient runes, had already spoken its grim truth. This wolf, this very creature now dwelling uneasily among them, would one day devour Odin, the Allfather himself. Can you imagine? The king of all gods, the source of wisdom and power, forewarned of his own demise, not by a rival god, but by a creature born of chaos, one he could not simply slay without risking even greater cosmic imbalance. They tried to bind him, not once, but twice. They fashioned chains of immense forged strength, crafted from the finest metals known across the 9 realms. With a mixture of feigned playfulness and underlying treachery, they challenged Fenrir, taunting his burgeoning power, daring him to break free. And twice, with a casual, almost contemptuous snap, the mighty wolf shattered the chains, reducing them to mere dust, his power growing, his eyes gleaming with a terrible, ancient intelligence that seemed to pierce through their deception. The air grew heavy with unspoken fear. In their deepest hour of need, Odin, burdened by the weight of foreknowledge, consulted the legendary dwarves, the master smiths and artificers of the 9 realms. From their hidden forges, they crafted Gleipnir Fae, not a chain of iron or steel, but of impossibly strong, intangible, almost mythical ingredients. The sound of a cat's footfall, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, and the spittle of a bird. It was thin as the finest silk, delicate to the touch, yet imbued with an ethereal strength that surpassed any metal. A binding woven from the impossible, designed to entrap the inevitable. But Fenrir was no simple brute. He was no fool. He sensed the subtle deception, the potent, magical bindings woven into its delicate, silken form. His lupine intelligence sharpened by suspicion. "I will only allow myself to be bound by this ribbon," he growled, his voice a deep rumble that vibrated through the very stones of Asgard. "If one of you places your hand in my mouth as a pledge of good faith, a sign of your honesty, of your commitment to release me if I cannot break it." A chilling hush fell over the assembled gods. To volunteer was to invite certain mutilation, an act of supreme bravery. Only Tyr, the brave, stoic, one-handed god of justice and war, stepped forward with a grim, unshakable resolve that would echo through eternity. A sacrifice for the greater good, he placed his right hand deep within Fenrir's enormous maw, as Gleipnir tightened, as its ethereal strength clamped the wolf down. Fenrir thrashed furiously, and in a single, brutal, deafening snap, Tyr's hand was severed, a geyser of blood staining the hallowed ground of Asgard. It was a bloody, agonizing testament to the terrible cost of containing the inevitable, a permanent scar on the face of justice. Fenrir was chained, but at a terrible, unquantifiable price, and his howls echoing from the lonely, desolate island of Lyngvi were a constant, chilling reminder of the doom that still lay in wait, a constant, gnawing counterpoint to any peace. Next we turn to the serpentine terror, Jaefir Mongandra, the Midgard serpent, another child of Loki and Angrboda Freya, born of chaos and destined for destruction. In a desperate act of preemptive containment, Odin, in his wisdom and desperation, cast this colossal serpent into the vast abyssal ocean that encircles Midgard, the world of men. But this was no mere punishment. It was a futile attempt to forestall a devastating prophecy. Jaefir Mongandra grew to such an immense, unfathomable size that he literally encircled the entire world, biting his own tail, a living, breathing Ouroboros, an endless, venomous ring around humanity itself. His very presence, a colossal, slithering mass of scales and poison, became a ticking clock, a silent, omnipresent threat. Prophecy foretold his rising, his thrashing, his venom, poisoning the skies and seas, and his ultimate, fatal confrontation with Thor, the mighty thunderer, the very protector of Midgard. Imagine living with that knowledge, that crushing burden, a serpent miles long, dormant beneath your feet, in the deepest, darkest trenches of the ocean, waiting for the very air you breathe, the water you drank, all potentially tainted by his coming, the ocean itself no longer a source of life, but a cradle for this monstrous doom. The tension was palpable, a constant, low hum beneath the surface of all life, a silent scream of impending annihilation. And finally, Hel, the grim goddess of death, another unsettling child. Odin, in his attempts to maintain order and control, cast her into Niflheim, the icy, desolate realm of the dead, to rule over those who died of sickness or old age, rather than bravely in battle. Her face, a chilling dichotomy of half beautiful, vibrant life and half ghastly, decaying corpse, was a stark, disturbing embodiment of her cold, unforgiving her realm, a vast, desolate landscape where cold winds howled ceaselessly and the unmourned dead wandered in silent despair, was not just a place of eternal rest, but a formidable, patiently waiting army. Prophecy declared that from her bleak domain, countless souls, an undead host of staggering numbers, would march on Asgard, swelling the ranks of Ragnar, fake devastate. So even before the first snowflake of Fimbulwinter kissed the ground, even before the sun and moon began to falter in their celestial dance, the stage was meticulously set. The primary antagonists of Ragnarök, the very instruments of cosmic destruction, were not born of spontaneous malice, but of a trickster's chaotic bloodline, and the god's own desperate, short-sighted attempts to thwart these chains, these exiles, these profound fears. They were not solutions. They were merely delaying tactics, the tightening of a colossal cosmic spring that would eventually, inevitably, unleash its stored explosive power. If you are finding this deep dive into the inexorable march of destiny compelling, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic sagas. Your support helps us continue to bring these ancient, thrilling tales to life with the drama and suspense they deserve. The gods' efforts to contain their fate were, as all such efforts against destiny, ultimately futile. The prophecies were not merely predictions to be avoided. They were blueprints for an inescapable future, a meticulously detailed script for a cosmic tragedy. The world began to fray at the edges, slowly at first, a subtle deterioration. Then, with accelerating, terrifying speed, each escalating sign a chilling, unmistakable prelude to the coming storm. The first, and perhaps most terrifying, sign was Fimbulwinter, Fey the Great Winter. Not just one harsh season, or even a few arduous years, but three. The sun grew dim, its life, giving warmth, abandoning the 9 realms, a pale, anemic orb in a perpetually grey sky. Snow fell ceaselessly, thick and heavy, burying mountains, suffocating forests, and transforming vibrant landscapes into silent, frozen tombs. Blizzards raged, winds howled with the voices of despair, and the cold became a living, sentient entity, gnawing at flesh, chilling bone, and slowly, inexorably, freezing the very spirit of all living things. Crops failed, animals froze in their tracks, and starvation, a gaunt spectre, stalked the land, claiming countless lives. Imagine a world plunged into an endless, icy twilight, where hope itself slowly froze, cracked, and shattered like brittle ice. This wasn't merely a natural disaster. It was a cosmic chill, a deep, pervasive cold that seeped into the very souls of mortals and gods alike. Brother fought brother, familial bonds, once sacred and unbreakable, dissolved under the relentless pressure of biting cold, gnawing hunger, and abject despair. An age of axes and swords descended upon mankind, an age of moral decay, where honor was forgotten, where loyalty was a relic, and violence, brutal and unceasing, became the horrifying norm. The ties that bound society, once the bedrock of civilization, unraveled under the relentless, crushing weight of this unending winter. Simultaneously, cosmic horrors began to stir, their ancient hunger intensified by the encroaching doom. Kale and Hati, the colossal wolves who had chased the fiery sun and the silvery moon across the sky since the dawn of time, grew hungrier, bolder, their spectral forms becoming ever more corporeal, their pursuit ever more relentless. Their chase intensified, their shadows falling more frequently and for longer durations upon the earth. The sun, Sfael, and the moon, Memphene, were tormented, their life-giving light flickering, the celestial balance disturbed, their desperate flight, a race against consuming darkness. The world was plunged into partial eclipses, then full eclipses, monstrous shadows dancing ominously across the land, a terrifying cosmic game of cat and mouse played out in the heavens, signaling unequivocally that the end of time itself was drawing terrifyingly near. Every twilight became an omen of ultimate night, every fading moon a harbinger of eternal darkness. The very foundations of the earth began to tremble, then to convulse with unimaginable violence. Earthquakes, more powerful, more frequent, and more devastating than ever before recorded in any lore, ripped through the land. Mountains crumbled into dust, ancient trees, roots entwined with the earth's heart, were violently uprooted, and the primordial bonds that held the world together groaned under unimaginable, rending strain. It was during one of these cataclysmic tremors, a shattering groan from the very belly of the earth, that the greatest fear was realized, the chains broken. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, broke free of Gleipnir, his bonds, forged from the impossible, finally shattered by the earth's convulsion, his howls no longer distant, chilling echoes from a far-off island, but gut-wrenching roars that ripped through the realms, were a terrifying symphony of liberation and vengeance. With jaws agape, wide enough to swallow the horizon, he ran free, a storm of primal fury and unbridled world-ending power. His brother Jafemangundra, the Midgard serpent, stirred from his eons' long slumber. The earthquakes, the chaotic, violent thrashing of the world above, woke him from his abyssal depths. He began to writhe, twisting his colossal, scaled body, causing immense, devastating tidal waves to crash upon the shores of Midgard. The ocean itself became a maelstrom, a tempest of unimaginable force, engulfing vast lands, drowning ancient cities, and his venom, dark, corrosive, and lethal, began to seep into the very air and the seas, poisoning everything it touched. The sky itself seemed to weep, not with purifying rain, but with a toxic, acrid mist that choked all life. And from the icy wastes of Niflheim, Naglfar, a vessel built entirely from the fingernails and toenails of the dead, a chilling testament to forgotten. Unhonored souls broke free from its ancient, icy moorings. Loki, finally unchained from his torment, his face twisted with malice and dark glee, would captain this macabre vessel, steering a vast, silent army of the dead and frost giants towards Asgard itself. Imagine the sheer horror, a ship of the dead propelled by forgotten remnants of mortality, captained by the trickster god, sailing towards the very gods who had tormented him, poised to unleash utter devastation. Even the ancient Yggdrasil, the world tree, the magnificent axis of all existence, groaned in agony. Its mighty branches quivered, as if in fever, its colossal roots trembled deep within the earth, and its sacred leaves withered, shriveling, under the relentless assault of chaos. The cosmic balance was collapsing, a slow, agonizing descent into irreparable disarray. The signs were undeniable, painted across the darkening sky, felt in the convulsing ground, heard in the howling. Ragnarök was not merely coming. It was already here, a slow, inexorable unfolding of ancient, terrifying prophecy. The stage was set, the players in their final positions, and the final, cataclysmic act was about to begin. The air was thick with tension, a suffocating silence before the ultimate storm, broken only by the triumphant, terrifying howls of Fenrir and the crashing, venomous waves of the poison. The agonizing silence shattered. The deafening clash of steel against steel, the earth-shaking roar of monstrous beasts, the primal war cries of gods and giants erupted across Fimbulwinter, a chaotic, terrifying symphony of destruction unlike anything the cosmos had ever witnessed. This was Ragnarök, not just a battle, but an utter unraveling, a tearing apart of all that was, all that had been, and all that would ever be. Odin, the All-Father, majestic even in his grim, wearisome determination, led the charge of the Facer mounted on Sleipnir, his eight-legged steed. He rode at the head of his chosen warriors, the Einherjar. His spear, Gungnir, an artifact of immense power, flashed like bolts of lightning, felling countless foes, its divine trajectory never missing its mark. But his piercing eye, seeing through the swirling chaos, through the smoke and blood, was fixed on one figure, one destiny, Fenrir, the monstrous wolf. The beast, free and ravenous, moved like a shadow of pure destruction, a dark vortex of teeth and claws, his jaws wide enough to swallow the heavens, his eyes burning with an ancient, unquenchable hatred. Their fated confrontation, etched into the very fabric of time, began. Odin, the wise, the mighty, the orchestrator of worlds, battled with the strength of a dying universe. A king, yet the prophecy was absolute, a decree from the Norns themselves. Fenrir, with a final terrible lunge, a blur of fur and fury, engulfed the All-Father whole. The king of Asgard, the architect of worlds, the seeker of wisdom, was no more, swallowed by the very fear he had tried so desperately to cage. A god consumed by a beast born of chaos, a profound tragic irony for the wise. Thor, the mighty thunderer, roared his challenge, a sound that reverberated across the dying plains. His hammer, Fenrir, blazed with electric fury, arcs of lightning dancing around its mighty head as he faced his colossal nemesis, Fimbulwinter, the Midgard serpent. The serpent, now fully risen from the abyssal depths, thrashing across the plains of Fimbulwinter, its venomous breath turning the very air to a thick, corrosive poison that burned the lungs and withered the flesh. Thunder clashed with venom, lightning with impenetrable scales. The earth groaned under the titanic struggle. Thor, in a display of unmatched strength, a final, desperate surge of divine power, struck the serpent a crushing, earth-shattering blow, shattering its colossal skull. Fimbulwinter thrashed one last time, its immense body coiling and uncoiling in its death throes, spewing forth a torrent of its potent venom before collapsing lifelessly, its reign of terror ended. But victory, for Thor, was fleeting, a cruel mirage. The serpent's venom, inhaled deeply during the ferocious battle, had already seeped into Thor's very being, a slow, agonizing death sentence. After 9 agonizing steps, 9 paces forward into the void, the Thunderer, the protector of Midgard, the very shield of humanity, also fell, succumbing. 2 of Asgard's greatest pillars, gone in a heartbeat, their sacrifices echoing through the cosmic void. Freyr, the radiant god of summer and fertility, the bringer of light and bountiful harvests, found himself tragically unarmed. His enchanted, self-fighting sword, a weapon of unparalleled power, had been foolishly given away in an act of love, leaving him vulnerable. He now faced the colossal, infernal might of Surtur, the fire giant. Surtur, whose flaming sword outshone the very sun, moved with the destructive force of a supernova, a living embodiment of cosmic conflagration. Freyr fought bravely, desperately, wielding an antler, a symbol of nature's last stand, but against the inexorable, annihilating might of Surtur's cosmic fire. His efforts were tragically futile. The blazing sword, a river of pure destruction, cleaved through him, and Freyr, the bringer of light and life, was extinguished, his essence devoured by the unholy flames of ultimate destruction. Heimdall, the ever-vigilant guardian, the loyal watchman of the gods, found his fated adversary in Loki. The trickster, now fully embraced by his role as the orc. Their duel was a whirlwind of cunning and skill, a desperate clash between unwavering duty and unbridled chaos. Blades flashed with blinding speed, words hissed with venomous intent, and in a final, deadly exchange both fell, mortally wounded, collapsing together on the blood-soaked plain of Vifagre fair. The loyal watchman and the treacherous deceiver locked in a death embrace, their long, bitter rivalry ending in mutual destruction, an ironic symmetry to their lives. Tyr, the one-handed god of justice, whose sacrifice had once contained Fenrir, now found his nemesis in Garm. The monstrous hellhound, a beast, as formidable and terrifying as Fenrir himself. Bound outside the entrance to Helheim, it was a brutal, savage fight, a desperate struggle for vengeance, for honor, for the final justice. Tyr, with one hand, fought with the ferocity of a trapped lion, his remaining arm wielding his sword with unparalleled skill. But Garm's snapping jaws, his immense strength, and his tireless ferocity were overwhelming. In the end, both fell, tearing each other apart in a final, gruesome embrace, their bodies intertwined in a tableau of mutual destruction. The cost of preventing Ragnarök had been Tyr's hand. The ultimate cost of Ragnarök itself was his life. Throughout the vast, apocalyptic battlefield, other gods and giants clashed in a maelstrom of unimaginable violence. The mighty Vanir gods, the proud Facer, all fought with courage, desperation, and the knowledge of their inescapable fate. But the sheer numbers of the frost giants, the fire giants, and the countless dead from Hell's realm were overwhelming, a relentless tide of destruction. The very ground became saturated with blood, so much that it flowed like rivers, the sky choked with ash and smoke. And then Surtur, the fire giant, his mission of destruction not yet complete, his eyes burning with the fires of 1,000 suns, turned his flaming sword upon the very cosmos. The blazing blade, hotter than 1,000 suns, swept across the realms, a wave of pure, unadulterated fire, setting fire to Yggdrasil itself. The world tree, the magnificent pillar of all existence, the very anchor of the 9 realms, erupted in a cosmic inferno of unimaginable scale. The ancient roots burned, the mighty branches crackled and exploded, and the 9 realms, woven intimately within its structure, were engulfed in an all-consuming conflagration. Fire raged unchecked, devouring mountains, boiling seas, and incinerating skies. The stars themselves seemed to melt. The galaxies dissolve into fiery dust. The entire universe, as they knew it, was purified, utterly consumed in a searing, annihilating blaze. The earth, ravaged and burning, sank beneath the waves, swallowed by the burning, poisoned ocean. All light, all life, all form was reduced to ash and primordial chaos. This was the ultimate climax, the complete and utter obliteration of the old world. But here is the profound twist, the often overlooked, yet most crucial aspect of Ragnarök. It wasn't just an end. It was a brutal, necessary cleansing, a cosmic reset, a violent churning of the waters. From the ashes, from the depths of the consuming, purifying ocean, a new world began to emerge. The cycle, though devastating in its scope, was eternal, an endless dance between creation and destruction. As the infernal fires finally subsided, as the poisoned, boiling waters receded back into the newly formed abysses, a new green land rose from the sea. Verdant, fertile, unburdened by the terrible scars of the old world, pristine and fresh. A new sun, the radiant daughter of Savel, shone brightly in the purified sky, casting a gentle, hopeful light upon the reborn earth, promising warmth and new life, and who survived this cataclysm, a precious few. Balder, the god of light, beauty, and purity, and his blind brother, Share, who had tragically died long before Ragnarök, due to Loki's cruel trickery, returned from Hell's realm, resurrected. Their presence symbolized reconciliation, forgiveness, and new beginnings, a healing of ancient wounds. Vili and Veife, Odin's enigmatic brothers, who had helped him create the very first world from the primordial void, also survived, their ancient wisdom preserved. Emphe and Magni, Thor's strong, worthy sons, inherited their father's mighty hammer, MJ Fëanor, now a gleaming symbol of renewed protection and power for the nascent world. Veife, Odin's silent, powerful son, the god of vengeance, who had survived Fenrir's attack by tearing the wolf's jaws apart, and Veifeli, another of Odin's sons, both endured, destined to lead the new generation of gods. These were the survivors, the architects of the new order, destined to rebuild, to remember, and perhaps to learn from the cataclysmic mistakes of the past. They found the golden gaming pieces of the old gods scattered on the new, pristine grass, shining brightly, poignant reminders of a past era, of the cosmic games played and the destinies woven. They gathered, these few remaining, on the plains of Ifeafir, where Asgard once majestically stood. Now a fresh, untainted land, bathed in the glow of the new sun. They would sit and converse, sharing their memories, their wisdom, and their hopes for the future. And from the depths of Hodden famous Holt, a magical, untouched forest that had somehow been spared from Searcher's all-consuming flames, emerged two humans, Lelfaith and Elfaith. They had hidden within the mighty world tree itself, surviving on nothing but morning dew, and were now the sole progenitor. Their purpose, to repopulate the earth, to start anew, carrying no direct memory of the old world's tragedies, only the profound promise of a future unblemished by past errors. This wasn't just mere survival. It was a profound act of cosmic renewal. Ragnarök, in its terrifying, absolute totality, served not as an absolute annihilation, but as a crucible. It burned away the old, the flawed, the doomed, the tainted, to make way for the new, the hopeful, the unwritten. The cycle of destruction and creation, a fundamental, unyielding truth of the cosmos, was reaffirmed. The old gods, for all their immense power, their vast wisdom, and their glorious deeds, were bound by a fate they could not escape. Their saga was one of heroic, albeit ultimately futile, struggle against the inevitable, of knowing their end and still facing it with unwavering courage and dignity. What does this tell us, etched in the very fabric of Norse myth? That even in the face of absolute, unyielding destiny, there is still the profound opportunity for heroic action, for upholding honor, for facing the end, and that even the most cataclysmic end, the most complete annihilation, contains the potent seeds of a new beginning, a profound promise of life's enduring resilience, its capacity to always find a way to reassert itself. Ragnarök is not just a tale of doomsday. It is a testament to the cyclical nature of existence, a powerful narrative about sacrifice, renewal, and the indomitable spirit that rises, phoenix-like, from the ashes of utter destruction. It is a poignant reminder that even when the world burns, when all seems lost, life, in some form, finds a way to blossom anew, to whisper. That is all for today's video. If you like this deep dive into the Doomsday prophecy of Ragnarök, and found this exploration of fate, sacrifice, and rebirth compelling. Please take a moment to subscribe, like it, and support us. Your engagement helps us continue to bring these powerful, ancient myths to life. Thank you for watching, and see you next time as we unravel another ancient mystery.